I am fluent in the language known as wheelchair movement.
I'm fluent in the language of being easily distracted.
What's going on?
I'm fluent in the language of drawing.
I'm fluent. Ooh. I'm fluent in the language of blagging things.
I'm fluent in the language of drums.
I am fluent in the language of getting lost.
I am fluent in the Korean language. This is it. Hana, do, set, net, daso, yuso, ilgok, yaro, aho, yo.
I'm fluent in the language of forgetting what language I was fluent in. For instance, I forgot the one that I was going to say before, so this will make do.
Fluent in the language of imagination.
I'm fluent in the language of singing. Where are you going? Where are you going? Can you take me with you?
I'm fluent in the language of singing really loud in my car on the motorway.
I'm fluent in the language of jewellery. I'm fluent in the language of dance. I'm fluent in the language of making lists.
I am fluent in the language of moving house.
I'm fluent in the language of shopping.
I'm fluent in the language of singing in the shower out of tune.
Stop! Come back. Come closer. Don't speak until you're in front of the camera, not as you're walking up to it.
It's flashing. What again? Oh, I'm fluent in the language of singing in the shower out of tune.
I'm fluent in the language of having hay fever.
I'm fluent in the language of being impatient. I'm fluent in the language of dance.
Ed? Easy. Got another one, Ed?
Yep. I am fluent in the language of Ed.
I am fluent in the language of awkward moments.
Faster, everyone.
I'm fluent in the knowledge of time!
I'm fluent in the knowledge of texting 24/7.
Faster!
I'm fluent in the language of being clumsy.
I'm fluent in the language of smiling.
I'm fluent in the language of laughing.
I'm fluent in the language of having a falsetto voice, which is the hills are alive with the sound of music.
I'm fluent in the language of being really vague.
I'm fluent in the language of people watching.
I'm fluent in the language of just being really, really cool.
I'm fluent in the language of making it look like my little finger breaks.
Oh no, please. I'm fluent in the language of fig tan. I'm fluent in the language of owning DCs.
I'm fluent in the language of forgetting what I was going to say.
I'm fluent in the language of laziness.
I'm fluent in the language of mishearing what people say.
I'm fluent in the language of losing my hearing on airplanes.
I'm fluent in the language of wiggling my toes all the time.
I'm fluent in the language of dyslexia.
I am fluent in the language of actually just thinking. Yeah.
I'm becoming fluent in the language of moving in a circle.
I'm fluent in the language of being rushed.
I'm fluent in talking like this. Hello!
I'm fluent in the language of buying things I really don't need.
I'm fluent in the language of jumping.
Ich spreche fließend Deutsch.
I'm fluent in being the language of having so many ancestors, it really doesn't matter.
I'm fluent in the language of having ancestors as well.
Faster, much faster.
I really can't think of anything.
I'm fluent in the language of running away.
I'm fluent in the language of cracking my knuckles.
I'm fluent in the language of on an aeroplane. No, I don't know.
I'm fluent in the language of sweets and chocolate and pizza and curry and food.
I'm fluent in the language of being late.
I'm fluent in the language of spending too much money.
I'm fluent in the language of packing too many things I don't need.
I'm fluent in the language of standing in front of a camera and not knowing what to say.
I'm fluent in the language of really needing the loo right about now.
I'm fluent in the language of hating bananas.
I'm fluent in the language of talking like a Scouser.
Last one.
Ich spreche auch fließend Deutsch.